The Seahorse Effect by Seahorse. Chapter 12. Oh, happy day! When Anakin woke up the next morning, Obi-Wan was already getting dressed. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. "I have a meeting with Senator Ikrim after breakfast," the older Jedi informed his friend as he pulled on his boots. "What will you do?" Anakin mulled the question over for a moment and answered, "I'll take a look at his financial records, see if I can find anything. Will you be free for a spar later, Master?" Warm humor flooded Obi-Wan's Force presence as he shook his head. "I'm afraid not, Anakin. The meeting's likely to take all morning. Feel free to get into practice, though." He smiled and added, "And you don't have to call me Master anymore, Annie." The young men finished getting ready for the day, ate breakfast together in a small dining area close to their rooms that one of the servants showed them, and then parted ways. Obi-Wan went to meet the Senator in one of the more opulent staterooms while Anakin headed for the gym, when he felt someone behind him. He sighed. Anakin was pretty sure Imach has someone tailing him. Okay, maybe he shouldn't have asked so many questions about the so-called private rooms, but he needed to know. A secret this big was kind of hard to keep with cameras watching his every move. And now on top of that, one of the servants wouldn't leave him alone. At least the girl had no idea how to hide from a Force adept. She stuck to the hallways mostly, trusting the cameras in the rooms and keeping an eye on him from a distance. Bad idea, but he used it to his advantage, never staying in a single room long enough to make her suspicious and catching her in the act when she decided to check on him. Today was no different, he noted as he nonchalantly opened the door to the gym and felt her take up a watching position in a nearby doorway behind a column. He wouldn't have to put up with it much longer anyways. The evidence he and Obi-Wan needed was close. He could feel it. The Jedi started with stretches to limber up his muscles and then started on his various katas. Block, block, strike, kick, and block again. After a few repetitions, he grabbed a pole from a pile of gym equipment off to one side and started another kata, this one for saber work. Overhead strike, downward block, side swing, hilt strike. The memorized repetitive motion soothes his mind as his muscles flexed and tensed with emotions. Katas may be a pain to learn at the beginning, but now they were one of his favorite things about life as a Jedi. He switched to a gymnastics kata. He brought his knees up to his chest to launch himself into a flip to start the sequence. Then he stopped. Something felt different. Casting a quick glance around the practice room to make sure no one else was there, Anakin straightened and ran a hand over his midsection. A smile broke out on his face and he laughed inwardly in delight as his hand caressed the almost indiscernible swell in his abdomen. There they were. Obi-Wan was unsettled. Anakin hadn't scowled once since they met up after lunch, and it was unnerving to the older Jedi. He hadn't been surly with any of the staff. He'd had a rare show of sportsmanship when he'd won in their saber spar, helping Obi-Wan up from where he'd fallen, and his Force presence was, well, happy. If it hadn't been for the fact that he knew Anakin's Force presence so intimately, he would have thought it was an imposter. But since the Force presence was Anakin's, he was left with an ex-Padawan who seemingly was in a good mood. Very unsettling. Finally, he couldn't take it any longer. "What is it?" he asked, annoyance edging his words. He had to leave for another long meeting with the Senator, and he wasn't going to have this eating at the back of his brain while they talked. Anakin looked at his friend, that aggravatingly confusing smile still on his face. "What do you mean?" "You've been smiling all day. You don't usually do that, and the lack of annoyance, aggression, or anger in your Force presence is disturbing. What happened?" Inside his tightly shielded mind, Anakin massively flinched. Had he really been grinning like an idiot all day? He let loose a scowl now with a disgruntled, "So I can't just be happy?" Obi-Wan sighed. "Anakin, the last time you smiled that much, Mace had gotten caught in the lift you programmed to play the Coruscant planetary anthem whenever someone rode it." Anakin grinned at the memory. "What did you do?" The knight racked his brain for a good lie, but Obi-Wan took his hesitance as a refusal to answer and just sighed. "I suppose it can't be helped. I'll find out soon enough when we get kicked off the planet because of one of your pranks." Anakin's scowl returned for real. "That time on Yavin 4 was not my fault." "You put itching powder in the shoes of the ceremonial head of protocol." I was 14. I should have known better. Obi-Wan ducked his old Padawan's embarrassed swipe at his head and chuckled. It seemed all his irritation was for nothing, even if the pranking consequences would come back to bite soon enough. Smiling slightly, he watched Anakin storm off, usual scowl firmly in place. That night, after Obi-Wan had excused himself from the discussions with the Senator over a dinner far too lavish for the Jedi's simple tastes, he met up with Anakin back at their rooms. "Did you find anything?" he asked his younger friend. "I looked through his financial records like I said I would, and I think I found something." Anakin turned on the datapad he'd hidden under his outer tunic and brought up the page he wanted. "Remember that mission we were sent on a few months ago to Rex's Prime?" Obi-Wan nodded. "We destroyed a whole fleet of separatist ships that were refueling, and we caught them off guard." "Well," Anakin continued, moving to sit next to the older man so they could both see the datapad screen, "he's been sending a lot of credits to that area for refueling specifically. The date the amounts stop correlates directly with our raid on the area, possibly because once we found it, they stopped going there. He also doesn't have enough ships going through there to justify the credit amounts. I checked." "You hacked into the man's travel records?" He almost rolled his eyes. "Yes, and what I found definitely confirms what we thought, or at least enough of it, that he can be brought in for questioning." Obi-Wan nodded. "Then we should leave tonight, before he can stop us or cover his tracks more thoroughly. Pack'll go wake the crew." Within 3 hours, they were both writing their reports for the Council on their ship as it shot through hyperspace back to Coruscant.